Hi, so writing scientific papers might be really new for a lot of you, so I wanted to just give a few quick general tips as you're starting your writing assignment. So first off, just note that we want you to write in scientific research paper format. This is very different from lab report format. Okay, so just bear that in mind and make sure that you pay attention to the assignment and the sections and what we're really looking for in each section. All right, whenever you approach writing a section for your paper, I highly recommend that you take a step back first before you actually start typing and just think about the big story of your paper that you're trying to tell. Think about what the purpose of each section really is, how that relates to the big story, and outline for that section what needs to be included there and organize that outline. And then the writing should come pretty quickly once you've outlined the organization and what needs to be included for it. Okay, also really important, carefully read the assignment, and that includes reading the grading rubric. A lot of students don't look at the grading rubric until they've gotten their grade. But the rubric we provide to you beforehand because it's really helpful to you. Looking at the rubric shows you exactly what we're looking for in your papers, how they'll be judged. So looking at that in advance can really help guide your writing efforts. I also want to note that people are often uncomfortable writing about scientific work before they're done, but it is very common in science that you begin writing up your results before your experiments are 100% done or you're 100% done analyzing the data, etc. So it's perfectly fine to write your methods section before before you've done all 3 experiments, right? You pretty much have a good sense for what those experiments are going to look like in terms of the techniques that you're going to be doing. And you know, it's fine if you write something and then when you go back to put your final paper together, you end up having to change it because your 3rd assay was done differently. So don't worry about writing something before you're done. It's commonly done in science, and as long as you edit it to make any changes necessary later, it's okay. Okay, I also want to mention plagiarism because this can be something that's not entirely clear to students as well. So we typically see 2 types of plagiarism with students. So the first is difficulty with their references. And really for both types, the second type of plagiarism is plagiarizing off of each other with your lab partners. You know, you take the same figure caption and plop it into each other's papers or use very, very similar wording. And for both of these, the best way to avoid that is to not be writing with the primary paper or a lab mate's paper or they're sitting right next to you as you write. Okay, the best thing to do is to read that primary paper, take notes on it, and then walk away from it for a few hours or a day before you actually start typing. It's much easier to type in your own words if you're doing it from memory rather than directly after reading a paper. If you've just read a sentence from a paper, it's really tough to come up with how to word that same idea in your own words. Similarly, right, if you're working with lab partners and discussing what you included in your methods section, for example, and maybe they even show you their writing for that, take a break, walk away from that before you actually start writing your own section, because otherwise it's just really easy to accidentally use the same wording and end up with a plagiarism issue. All right, so of course doing those things means that you need to start working in advance so that you have time to stop, walk away, and then do your writing. So as much as possible, start early. The more stress you have with the assignment or the more difficult you think it will be for you, the earlier you should start working on it. In addition, there are lots of resources out there to help you. So online you can find tons of sites that try to guide students in how to write in scientific format. You can also just look at papers from journals to see, you know, how do they set up the organization of their results section? What style is their wording in, right? And the Emory Writing Center is a really fantastic resource. You know, they might not be experts in the science that you're doing, but they will be really great at making sure that the argument that you're setting up in your paper has a logical flow, that it's explained clearly, and that it's grammatically correct. So especially, this can be really helpful if you struggle with grammar or English as a second language and that's a source of stress for you. Just make yourself a deadline in advance, get your paper draft written, set up an appointment with the Writing Center, and leave time after your appointment to do further editing of your paper before you have to turn it in. But they're very, very helpful. I highly recommend it.